So let's start the section C type question. We will cover a CRQ question, section C. You know very well the CRQ with F9, with FM. Examiner examined 2 questions of 20 marks, total 40 marks questions. So here is the question. Here is a question, yes. We will work out with this question. Question name Banbury. So first of all, have to read the requirement. Have to read the question context, but quickly read the requirement. Calculate the market value after tax WACC. Okay, WACC. So first you have identified that. Okay, the examiner here examined the question about business finance. And the business finance particular topic, weighted average cost of capital, calculation of cost of capital. Okay, A part, that is something about calculation, 10 marks. Then B parts, that is something discussion, 4 marks. Okay, and C part, that's discussion, 6 marks. So very good. Out of 20, 50% about calculation, 50% about theoretical aspect. Okay. So let's start with the part A, the calculation. Then we will cover the theoretical part as well. Now come on. A part. This scenario relates to 3 questions. Okay. The statement of financial position of Banbury Company provide the following information. Whenever there is a question about the whenever there is a question about the calculation of WACC, first of all, you must have to identify how much number of finance that's need to consider for WACC. That means investor with respect to the capital structure. How much financial here? Always consider equity as one financer. Plus debt holder maybe one. Maybe more than one. So quickly identify how much finance. Number 1, equity finance. Okay, that's the equity holder. Number 2, non-current liability, 7% convertible loan, 5% preference shares. That's the point. So equity holder number 1, debt holder, convertible loan notes, debt holder, preference shares. Okay. Banbury Company has, now read the details. Banbury Company has an equity beta 1.3. Equity beta already given. And ex-dividend market value of the company equity. Ex-dividend market value of company equity 80 million. 2 important point here. The market value of equity given. Okay, 80 million. Number 2, it's mentioned ex-dividend. If it's not dividend, if it's not mentioned, it's ex-dividend. By default, it's ex-dividend. But if something mentioned cumulative dividend, then we need to adjust the market value with the current dividend. Adjust the market value with the current dividend. So identify the figure of the ex-dividend. So in simple words, always we require the market value of equity or market value of share. That's ex-dividend. If it's given ex-dividend, that's good. If it's not mentioned, that by default it means ex-dividend. But if mentioned cumulative dividend, then we need to adjust the current dividend to identify the figure of the ex-dividend market value of equity or ex-dividend market value of shares. Okay. Another important point, one more thing. It's a total 80 million. It's equity 80 million. No? So if we involve with the question, that we need to somewhere we need to identify the number of shares. So very important point, that is about what's the par value of shares. Normally the par value it's $1, but maybe possible sometimes the examiner mentioned 0.5 the par value. So if total $80 million equity market value and $1 par value and 20 million book value. So that means the number of shares 20 million, book value divided by $1, that's 20 million number of shares. So $80 million divided by 20, that's $4 per share, the market value. So let's move on. X interest market value of convertible. X interest market value convertible loan notes 18 million. So same point, convertible loan notes market value is required by default X interest. If it's not mentioned, by default is X interest. But if it's mentioned, cumulative interest. So we need to calculate the value of the market value notes 18 million minus the current interest value. Okay. Again, the X dividend market value of preference shares. X dividend market value of preference shares $5.5 million. $5.5 million. Okay, that's another point. $5.5 million. So preference shares, what about the preference shares? Normally, if examiner not mention it's redeemable or irredeemable, it's by default irredeemable. It's by default irredeemable. So here for total value of marketable preference shares 5.5 million, it's ex-dividend, same discussion, that's by default it's ex-dividend. If it's not mentioned either ex or cumulative, by default we will consider ex-dividend. If it's mentioned the cumulative dividend, then we need to adjust the current dividend of the preference shares to identify the figure of the ex-dividend market value preference shares. One more thing, by default the preference shares par value $1. So here the number of preference shares 10 million. So 5.5 divided by 10 million, we can calculate the per preference shares market value. Same case for convertible loan notes, 20 million divided by 100. That's we can calculate 0.02 million number of convertible loan notes. And where if you wanted to identify the figure of per convertible bonds market value, we can calculate. Okay. Further, convertible loan notes of Banbury company have a conversion ratio of 20 shares per loan note. Very simple. Conversion date and redemption date both on same date in 5 years time. Current ordinary share price of Banbury is expected to increase by 4% per year for the foreseeable future. These are the data available for the convertible loan notes. The equity risk premium of 5% per year, risk-free rate premium, risk-free rate 3.5%, and Banbury pays profit tax at an annual rate 20%. Calculate the WACC. So it's very simple and very structured calculation of the WACC. No? Let's start. Yes, come on. What the first thing you wanted to work out for the WACC always? That is, you need to work out for the capital structure. Capital structure. And in market value terms. Okay, market value. Okay, one by one, capital structure. Number one, equity. Equity market value is given in the question, that's equals to 80 million, that's equals to 1,000, 80,000. Sorry. Then the preference shares, very quickly you will, very easy marks. Huh? Preference shares total value, that's equals to preference shares, that's 10 million. Or you can calculate the convertible loan notes, no issue at all. 5.5, that's 5,500. Then next point is about 7% convertible bonds. Yes, the value of the convertible bonds, that's equals to 18,000. Very simple. That is the market value. Huh? Okay, and the that's related cost. We need to identify that's KE, KD like this, huh? And their weightage. So first need to identify the capital structure. That's these are the capital structure. Now you need to work out KE. You need to identify what the data available. If the data about CAPM and dividend valuation model both, the preferable method is CAPM. Only the CAPM use the CAPM model. Only the dividend valuation model use the dividend valuation. So here only CAPM model. Very simple. Is equal to 5%. That's risk-free rate. Sorry, risk-free rate 3.5% plus premium multiply by 1.3. That's equals to 10%. Now need to work out for KD preference shares. Irredeemable. That's preference shares. That's called irredeemable. Huh? Irredeemable. Very simple formula about the irredeemable preference shares. What the formula about is equal to preference shares total 10 million book value 10 million multiply by 5%. Multiply by 5% divided by the market value, that is 5.5. That's a percentage. So what you have done, that is 10. The 10 is the total. Once again, is equal to 10. It's a book value multiply by 5% divided by market value. Market value 5.5. That's 5.9%. That's simple. Now it's time for the calculation of cost of debts by convertible bonds. So cost of debts by convertible bonds, we need to work out with the IRR. But before that working, uh, first of all, we have to allocate this. That's 10%. That's 10%. Students, one more thing I wanted to discuss simultaneously is that examiner allocate the marks now. They allocate the marks. For KCAPM, examiner allocate 1 mark. For the calculation you have made, let's take out the data of 3.5 plus 5%, then beta equity, that's you have covered the 1 mark. Same 1 mark for preference shares to identify the figures of numerator and denominator. So congratulations, 2 marks you have done. No marks for just the description or mentioning the capital structure. Okay. So simultaneously we will also discuss how much marks allocated accordingly. No? By the way, for KD convertible bonds, examiner allocated 6 marks. I will let you know how the 6 marks allocated. Here total 10 marks, huh? 6 plus 1 plus 1. Plus 2 marks is the final calculation. Okay, let's start the convertible bonds. So convertible bonds, you need to make a working. KD convertible debts. Some structure I've already prepared to save the time. So for KD, that's you have to develop a structure in a manner like if investor buy this convertible debts, So buy now, that means it at a zero. So what's the market value of convertible notes? So that means this is something outflow. So we have to calculate the outflow, that's outflow. So how to calculate is equal to, by the way, I must recommend here to calculate the convertible rates carry with a one bonds, not in totality, with one bonds. So if investor invests one bond, what is the market value of one bond? Is equal to the total market value of convertible bonds. It's 18 million. Huh? So it's 18 divided by number of bonds. Its number of bonds is 20 divided 20 is total 20 million total book value divided by 100. So 20 divided by 100. So 18 total market value divided by number of bonds 20 divided by 100, that is 90 million. And this is what about the minus figure. Why minus? Because investor will buy the convertible bonds, something need to invest money, no? Minus 90. And with this calculation, you will be able to get 0.5 mark, by the way. 0. Out of 6, that's 0.5 marks. That's 0.5 marks. Okay. Then calculate the interest. The interest calculation, that is interest multiplied by 1 minus tax. The examiner recommended approach. That is equal to investor will earn 7% into 100. But the company will pay that interest and get the tax advantage. So tax value is 20%. So that means it's something about 80%. 0.8. That is 5.6. 5.6, 5.6, 5.6. Interest multiplied by 1 plus tax. That is examiner mentioned something about out of 6, 1 mark. 1 mark. Okay. 5.6, 5.6, 5.6 and 5.6. And at the end of the day, 5.6 plus something, redemption or conversion. Redemption or conversion. So let's decide either redemption or conversion value. So redemption value by default 100. If it's not mentioned that redemption value at par or at premium, it's by default at par. No? That's 100. Conversion value we need to calculate. For the sake of conversion value, what do you require? Number 1, market value of share now. Market value of share now. Market value of share now is equal to market value total market value to 80 million. That's 80 million here. Divided by number of shares. Number 20 divided by $1. Market value of share 4. Growth rate here mentioned. Here the growth rate mentioned 4%. Expected to increase 4%. Times 5 years. Expected market value, it's very simple, is equal to 4 multiplied by 1.0, 4 power 5, 4.86. So conversion value 4.86 multiplied by attached shares 20 shares multiplied by 20. That is 97.33. Don't worry, these sheets are available to you. 97.33. 97.33 conversion value. Redemption value 100, conversion value 97.33. So higher one is redemption value. So take out the higher value. That's very clear. Interest plus redemption. is equal to 100 plus 5.6. Now calculate the shortcut formula is equal to, you used to shortcut formula, must have to use. That is 8.11%. If you calculate the shortcut formula, you will be able to get 2 marks. With this IRR. Don't use the trial and error method, use the shortcut method. Okay, 2 marks, 3.5, and sorry, 2, 3, 3.5. That is, yes. About the conversion value, examiner attached, yes. 1.5 marks. One 1.5, 3.5, 4.5. That's a 5 marks. That's 5 marks. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. That's a 5 marks. One moment. Okay, these are actually 2 plus 3, 3.5, 1.5, 5 marks. Okay, sorry. Actually, examiner attached total 5 marks for this convertible rights, and here 2 marks. For preference shares, that's 2 marks. So 5 plus 2, 7 plus 8, and remaining 2 marks. Don't worry. I will let you know about 2 marks. Okay, so that's the point. Now, 8.1 marks. Weightage, calculate the weightage. Calculate the weightage. Is equal to 10% of equity divided by totality 103,500 multiplied by respective weightage 80,000. Once again, 9.095% preference shares capital, the cost of preference shares divided by 103,500 weightage 5,500. 8.1% divided by 103,500 multiplied by 18,000. So here is the sum 9.62. For this working, examiner attached 2 marks. Yes. For this working, examiner attached 2 marks. That's 9.62. This is the WAC. I wanted to share a very important point here about the calculation. There is a rule called OFG, on figure rule. On figure rule. This is a golden rule. Listen carefully. What does that mean? On figure rule. If, for example, some of you have started the calculation and the first step you have done good, that's full mark, 1 mark. But for preference share, this is 2 marks. 2 marks for what? First, calculate the percentage of dividend, numerator 1 mark divided by numerator 5.5 total value. For example, any of the student has made a mistake of numerator denominator anywhere, and either 9.09, it's a value of, for example, 7.5% by mistake. Some of the figures has identified the wrong one. So definitely this marks, you will lose some mark here, definitely. Examiner allocated the marks, numerator and denominator. So first thing is that if you have made mistake of numerator, examiner will give you the mark for denominator. That's important thing. Here is the marking scheme. Here is the marking scheme. You can read it. That's very important for exam purpose. Examiner allocate The marks of preference shares, dividend now 0.5, market value 0.5. If someone has made mistake for numerator, examiner will only deduct this mark, not the denominator. The first important point. Another important point, sir, if this preference shares, okay, out of 2 we have only identified, we have got the mark of 1, but this figure is wrong. Listen carefully. This figure is wrong. But our WAC will also automatically become wrong. Don't worry about that. Own figure rule means your mistake will not carry forward. Your sin will not carry forward. You can go to the paradise because you will penalize only for that relevant mark that you have done before. Examiner will assume your wrong figure and your rest of the working is become right. So examiner will not deduct any more mark, and you will be able to pass the exam. That's enter to the paradise. You will be penalized only for the limited one. So that is called the own figure rule. So that is what about the A part of this question. A part of this question. Now the B part. Discuss, read the requirement very carefully. Discuss why market value WAC is preferred to book value WAC when making investment decision. That is 4 marks. Students, before entering the question, what the important point that I always suggest to my students, especially for the theoretical part of the section B. First of all, plan your answer. And for planning, the rule about 20-80, 20% time you need to invest, 20%. That's called time management. 20% time you have to invest for planning, understanding, and brainstorming. You have 1.8 minutes for each mark. Multiply by, you are attempting 4 marks question. So that means you have 7 minutes. 20% time. That means average 2 minutes. I strongly suggest you have to plan. You have to invest for read, understand, and brainstorm. Whatever you wanted to write, first of all, develop a raw thinking and compose your mind. That's a key point. So here, you need to read the requirement. Why? Here examiner asks, discuss why WAC is preferred to market value WAC is preferred to book value when making investment decision. So first thing I must say here, now it's time for brainstorming. Your tone of answer. Normally students don't do that. Tone and answer should reflect the comparison. You not just write market value is preferable. No, your tone must be comparison of WAC, market value versus book value. And your tone should reflect why market value preferable. Now, why market value preferable? So first thing that's you need to develop. Read the requirement very carefully, and then read the requirement and understanding the requirement. That's what should be my tone of answer. Then you have to develop a raw thinking. That is called brainstorming. Never make a mistake that's directly start the writing. First, you have to brainstorm. For example, you have to develop your mind or compose your mind. Market value of WAC is preferable because it reflect the current value of current that reflect the current value of companies capital companies finance. Finance means equity finance and debt finance. Current value, it's not the book value. Always try to start your answer, always try to start your theory answer with a very simple statement. Start with a very simple statement. Here very market value is preferable because it that's reflect the current value of the company's finance. Then you need to add on more points. For example, here equity value, normally equity with respect to equity, the market value is greater than book value. It's greater than book value. So if we use the book value, this will understate the capital structure. So you are actually your draft is actually reflect the tone of comparison and also the preference of the market value, because you are criticizing the book value. Then you will mention KE is greater than KD. It's the norm. So if understate the value of equity, that means understate the value, the calculation of WAC. If WAC become understate, that means you will misrepresent the appraisal of investment appraisal, the investment appraisal by NPV. That's the point. That is the point. So you have to compose your mind. It's not necessary that all of you develop these things by writing on the scratchpad, but brainstorming in your mind. You can brainstorm in your mind now and do practice with this manner. This is quality practice. If you just referring the solution, don't write the answer with examiner expectation. Don't involve with the answer. That's how it's possible that you become pass the exam. This is the right methodology. Now this is the document and this is what about the suggested answer. If some of you, for example, here mentioned starting point always with simple and clear statement. For example, you start with this: market value are preferable to book values when calculating the WAC because they reflect the current value of the company's capital. That's simple statement. And you need to mention market value of ordinary shares usually significant higher than book value. So one by one, if book value are used instead of market value, so you are comparing and criticizing the book value. If you criticize the book value, automatically you are actually preferring the market value. If book value are used instead of market value, this will understand the proportion of the equity represented in the company's capital structure. This will almost like cause of WACC to be understated since the cost of equity is greater than the cost of debts. Underestimating the WACC will skew means misrepresent the company's investment appraisal process as a lower discount rate is used and cause the company to make suboptimal investment decisions. That is the right way to drop the answer. So do follow these rules. Next, C part. Come on, the last one. The last question of this practice session. Read it. Discuss the attractions to Banbury of convertible debts. Attraction to the Banbury of convertible debts means advantage of the convertible debts compared to bank loans. Compared to bank loans of similar maturity as a source of finance. Similar maturity as a source of finance. I know that normally why you people face the problem for theory, because you people have a knowledge from the book, but you people don't invest time to attempt the question according to the examiner expectations. If someone only write the advantage of convertible debts, you will only be able to get selective marks. You will only be able to get selective marks. 2 marks, maximum 3. I am wrong about that 3, maximum 2 marks. Not able to pass. Here examiner mentioned, number 1, it's about the case Banbury. Number 2, you need to write the answer to compare with the bank loan. So you have to write the convertible debts to compare with the bank loan. You just write the advantage of the convertible debts. That's the answer. It's not right according to the examiner expectation. So now I am discussing the point in this manner. Number 1, rule number 1, 2080. Time management. If a 6 marks question, that's you have 11 minutes. 20%, that's 2 minutes you need to invest for what? Reading, understanding, and brainstorm. Do practice with this manner. Examiner recommendation, this is examiner report recommendation. At least 3 points here. 3 points, maximum 3 points. Don't need to mention for 4 or 5 points. 3 points. 3 points, 6 marks. Two marks each point. And the tone of your answer. Tone, how to select tones from this requirement. Number 1, you have to make a reference of the Banbury case. You have to put a reference of Banbury. And you need to mention comparison with the loan notes. That's 2 important points. That's 2 important. Let's start with the brainstorming. A raw thinking about convertible debts advantage, but also incorporate the examiner expectation. That's you have to draft with a tone according to the examiner expectation. That's incorporated with the case study. That's use the reference name of the company and compare with bank loan. Number 1, with convertible debts, the interest rate attached are lower because of conversion rights. So it's a norm. In case of conversion, no cash redemption. It's a benefit if in future the investor, if the conversion option is attractive, so there will be no need to pay the cash. So these are the raw thinking. Raw thinking means it's a general advantage that you have a knowledge from the book. But all of these brainstorming, brainstorming means that's a raw thinking. You have to indulge the tone with this raw thinking and then drop the answer. You have to incorporate the name of company, and your tone must be comparison with loan notes. Then your answer according to the examiner expectation. Convertible debts and all the marketable debts normally unsecured, but the bank loans are secured. In case of the bank loan, at the date of repayment, the carrying level reduce, but okay, debts become reduces. But the conversion option, debts become convert in the conversion option. At one point, debts level reduces, another point, equity level increases. So there is dual positive impacts on the carrying ratio with conversions. So your suggested answer for you, number one, you have to start very simple. Convertible bonds are attractive. Attractive, you have to mention. Attractive as compared to bank loan for Banbury for following reason. So you have to start with what? Examiner expectation with simple statement. Attractive as compared to bank loan. That's the tone you have used here. For Banbury, that's linked with the case. Number one, the first point, lower interest rate. If someone only mention, now listen, I don't prefer this answer. This is not up to the mark star, up to the mark. If someone mention interest rate with convertible debts is lower because of conversion rights. If someone mention this answer is okay, right? But you will be able to get very limited marks because answer is not according to examiner requirement. Why? Because your draft missing the point about the tone you need to opt. That's no reference of case and no comparison with bank loan. So what should be the right way to answer? Yes, if you wanted to write about lower interest rate, your answer must be in this manner. Banbury company lenders will normally willing to accept a lower coupon rate of interest, or you can answer in this manner. Banbury can offer or can issue the convertible debts with lower interest rate. You can use these words on convertible bonds than a bank loan because of additional value created offered by the conversion rights. Banbury offer the convertible loan notes where the lower interest rate than the bank loan because of additional value offered by the convertible rights. So if you write with this tone, actually you meet the examiner expectation. You have referred the case. Number one, you have drafted your answer by mentioning the comparison with the bank loan. That's a point. Another point, 3 points is good enough. Possibility of not redeeming debts at maturity. If bonds are converted, this frees the Banbury can avoid it from cash payment at redemption. But the bank loan will have to pay back. There is no choice as this will require good cash flow management for the Banbury. So application, that's reference of case, plus comparison with bank loan. Security of debts. In most cases, Banbury will have to offer security for bank loan. It may not have, whereas the convertible loan notes are typically unsecured. For 6 marks, 3 points are good enough. Rather than if someone mentioned 5 points, but not having a tone to compare with bank loan, not mentioning the company name. So the students will not get any marks, not extra marks for writing the 5 points. Examiner will count only limited marks. marks. So student, that is what about the theoretical content guidance as well. That's all over about this question as well. So agenda point about this practice session is over now. I hope that you have, with this particular session, you have identified a very valuable insights how to practice the questions. If you feel that yes, the session is valuable, do reply me on my, do comment with my video, so I will be able to cover more things accordingly, or someone also someone also able to get support this type of video. Okay, so do comment for this video if you really feel that it's valuable for you. Okay students, thank you very much. Take care a lot. Assalamu alaikum.